Hello people, it's me Rexkix. Today we're going to be doing the SpaceChem Tournament 2020 Round 2 video. Let's go take a look at this. But first, I've got Gigs with me.
Hello.
I got biggiemac with me.
Hello, hello.
And Brookie's here too.
Hello.
Okay, it should be fun. Let's go with this. But first, want to say thanks to the tournament hosts. RP0 came up with all the puzzles, and 12345 IEEE, he's the guy who's doing all the stats. I know both of them would really rather be doing the tournament, playing in the tournament, but they've sacrificed that so we can have puzzles, and that's really cool of them. Thank you guys.
Indeed. Thank you.
But first, we're going to look at the puzzle. Give me a moment. Okay, well, here's the puzzle. Biggie's going to explain it to us.
Yeah, so the puzzle's named Decarburization. It's coming from turning blocks of iron and carbon into separated iron and carbon dioxide outputs. It takes place in a Community Edition enhanced reactor. The reactor has 2 sensors, 4 bonders, and 4 quantum tunnels. The 4 quantum tunnels is a unique thing coming just from Community Edition, and when the swap command is hit, all the atoms on the tunnels will break all their bonds like normal. The now square 1 will teleport to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and 4 to 1, so it's a cycle instead of 2 pairs. The inputs for the puzzle, the only real interesting input is the random one. The rest of the process is pretty basic. You have the iron just needs to be dropped off at output psi, and the carbon just needs to be converted to carbon dioxide using diatomic oxygen and then output at omega. But the random block has 1 carbon per each row and per each column, and the rest is all iron, and there are 3 possible configurations. They're each a different window of an overall identical repeating subpattern. The output count is balanced so that it takes exactly 12 of the random input to finish the puzzle. If you recall how SpaceChem generates its random sequences, this guarantees that you need to handle 4 of each type of the random input in some order.
So I mentioned before that the aim of this puzzle was to introduce people to using 4 swappers, which, as Biggie said, is a new Community Edition feature. So the idea was to train us to use the 4 swappers and then have a more difficult puzzle in the next week using the same mechanics.
Very good, Gigs. Thank you for saying that. The metric for the puzzle is symbols minus 5. So it's a symbols minimization puzzle, but we're just going to subtract 5 from the number of symbols everyone uses to make it spread out the results a little better, differentiate the results. So let's get going. The first solution is going to be by CursedFlames. He's at number 28. We had 28 submissions. Let's go take a look at his solution.
Yeah, so this puzzle, of course, because there's a randomness, you have to find some approach. And the approach that CursedFlames takes is to take 1 atom at a time. Then it's either going to be iron or carbon. If it's carbon, blue does a nice long loop to go grab some oxygen and convert it into the carbon dioxide. While if it's iron, it just gets swapped over to tunnel 2 and output into output psi. Because it's operating on 1 atom at a time, it has to raster through the input. It'll grab it in 2 different points and move it onto that tunnel. And then there has to be some counting logic to tell when the input is used up so that it can put input alpha in and not crash the reactor. So you can see that there's a 16 count flip-flop loop on red there, which makes sure that it's grabbed 16 atoms before it hits input alpha again.
Okay, let's watch it go a little faster.
And so we have an example, as Biggie said. There are 2 grab points, and so the grab point on the top right is a conditional grab, which is one example of conditional instruction that's not a sensor. We see that often in symbol optimization.
Right here, he's grabbing the upper right corner and bringing it down for the next row.
Yeah. And so this only happens if there's something to grab.
I think the counters are set up in such a way that he counts to 4 before getting to that grab anyway.
This is true.
That is true.
That is true. Wow.
But he needs that, I believe, if he's going to count all his outputs and do the input alpha.
Yeah, so there's a second count to 4 on rows. There's a count to 4 on columns and a count to 4 on rows here.
Yeah, you're right. This is more complex than I thought.
I think they were saying about their solution that they kind of just wanted to get something done and that their mind gravitates towards a fast approach more than a simple light one, which makes some sense.
Yeah,
this is
do it together in like 30 or 45 minutes.
And they submitted, and that's what matters here.
Yeah.
And let's run fast. Get this done. So it'll take a little bit of time. This runs clocks in at 3636, but much more important, it's 49 symbols, which gave us a metric of 44. And it's good for 3.409 points. Thank you, CursedFlames. But first,
there's a basic symbol optimization trick that we can showcase here, and we call it priming flip-flops. So, like Rexkix, you can go.
Okay.
Point is, you don't need to have both an arrow and a flip-flop if you just have the flip-flop pointing the right way, and you can activate it beforehand. So this can be done on all 4 flip-flops here, and so it saves 4 symbols. The only thing that you have to change to is the position of the start, so that the flip-flops are activated.
Okay, we just save ourselves 4 symbols, and it primes the flip-flops. Let's just look at that one more time. All the flip-flops start out unselected, but immediately they get selected.
Yeah, the effect is that by the time you hit input alpha, it's identical to the previous solution. It just took an extra 10 cycles to get there.
And we'll see that this one...
Yeah, you can go at speed 4, I think.
Yeah, because of the 144 outputs, it has to go through quite a lot of material. Speed 4 makes a lot of sense here.
And here we are. It took few more cycles to prime those flip-flops, but we saved 4 symbols, which is the key thing here. Here is lilkcough's solution at 27th place, and Brookie's going to explain this one.
All right, so lilkcough essentially does something very similar to CursedFlames, where he has an input alpha and he rasters through the input one atom by atom. The difference is, first he has primed his flip-flops, so he saves on a decent amount of symbols there. But it is he is using some sync commands, and because of that, it does add a couple more symbols. Other things to note, we'll see in other solutions and further on that, in fact, it's possible to solve this puzzle without actually using any flip-flops at all. You don't actually have to count to get through all of your input, but we'll get to that once we get there.
Let's go take a look at one of the carbons get processed and see how he makes his carbon dioxide, which is part of the fun of this puzzle.
Yeah, so here he uses a swapper, a pair of swappers to debond the oxygen and move it and bond it back up together. So this is one of the methods you could use for assembling your carbon dioxide. Again, we will see more methods later.
I do tend to really like the idea of, since the swapper can debond that double bond on the oxygen, it saves you all the bond minus commands, and you can have the other oxygen on a line of bonders, so you can just pick it up, move it along, and 2 bonds is enough to get it all the way complete. Yeah, I found that pretty elegant. It's not the only option, but it is definitely a very elegant way of turning the diatomic oxygen into CO2 with 1 carbon and then a single swap.
Yes, though technically if you did do like a line loop, we'll also get to those in a bit. You could also just reuse the single bond minus command, but yes, it is definitely more elegant to just use the swap.
Okay, and let's go quickly. Let's see where this is 39 symbols. better than the 45, actually 49, I believe, and it clocks in faster, and that was lilkcough.
It does seem that these one atom at a time solutions are going to be generally pretty slow. Like 3,000 cycles isn't uncommon for them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, next solution is by darkid. He's clocks in at 26th place. Let's go take a look at his solution.
So darkid uses a unique approach. He has blue going around on a 20 cycle loop with atoms going over the swapper. Red is going on a 21 cycle loop if it's an iron, and 41 cycle loop if it's a carbon. So the parity issue is solved with the wall flip-flop being hit here, delays 1 cycle. And because of this, because there's a difference of 1 cycles between the two Waldos, a different atom will be swapped each time.
Let's see.
And because it's always progressing by 1, everything stays connected, which allows blue to keep doing its thing without having to regrab ever.
Yeah, if you look at the way blue moves, you'll see there's never a cycle where there's nothing on the swapper.
Actually, doesn't he, how does he repeat? I think there's one cycle where there's nothing. He's grabbing nothing, which makes him go around and do the
No, I
input
meant
alpha.
over the swapper.
Oh,
yeah, over the swapper, there's always going to be the whole.
There's always something.
Okay.
Yeah, but it also relies on the fact that the top right atom of every type of input is an iron, so you can sense just iron to know whether you continue or whether you're out.
And as Brookie mentioned earlier, this is a way to know when to get a new input without counting to 16.
I wonder if there's a symbol to be saved. Let me just quickly check.
Here is the cycle where we don't get anything here. Oh, we do.
But it does loop an extra time because the other sensor picks up an iron.
Right.
It's funny because both sides end up with, like both symbols, or both sensors are sensitive to the same thing at the same time. So if an iron is on either one of them, then it'll redirect blue, but one extra pass through that zigzag isn't going to cost any cycles, or isn't costing any symbols. It is costing a couple cycles, but that's not the important bit here.
Okay, and there we got another input alpha. And here we go. Now you were talking about, here, let's run it to completion. 37 symbols, which gives us a metric of 32. And a whopping 5219 cycles. I think this was our slowest solution, but of course that doesn't matter.
But that's correct.
Yeah. The next solution's by RP0. He's the tournament host, so he doesn't get any points. Let's go take a look at how it works.
Yeah, so this is the first one we've seen so far to use an approach that doesn't handle just a single atom at a time. This one takes into account an entire column, and it relies on the fact that in the column, one of them will be carbon and the other 3 will be iron. Which means if you bounce back and forth, it's effectively conditional logic on a single sensor to tell, oh, just keep permuting until we have the carbon. So you see blue right there? Once it's able to travel to the left, it knows that it's holding carbon, and so the other 3 are all iron, and they'll be sitting on top of the output side, so you can safely just output them all right away. It cuts down on the amount of loops that you have to do, so it makes for much faster solutions, but it also makes the conditional logic very simple, which leads to low symbols. So this was kind of the good approach for this puzzle, and there's quite a few people towards the top of the leaderboard who did this.
Now I notice. Go ahead. Now I notice he's got a timing loop here on red. I don't get it myself fully, so can somebody explain it?
Every 4th cycle is a swap, and every 2nd cycle is a bond minus, which guarantees that as soon as it inputs in beta, things will be bond minus in time, but it won't bond minus on top of actually intended bond plus. And the swaps are just there so that you can make sure that the permutation here happens on a 4-cycle loop without issue.
Okay.
It needs to be an even number because blue's loop is too long. 2 cycles long. I mean.
Oh yeah, because it loses. Huh? How is it? How is blue an even number? It takes 2 extra cycles on outside for the 3 outputs, and it does do 1 rotate. Oh no, just a second rotate. There we go. So that's how it becomes an even number.
Also, unprimed flip-flops.
Unprimed flip-flops.
The counting at the top for counting to 4 is 2 unprimed flip-flops, so there are 2 free symbols, yeah.
Well, let's go find them.
Even a third at the bottom, you can hang the flip-flop, but yeah.
This one?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Let's go find these symbols. Hang on a second. Let's go run it to completion. It's a lot faster. 34 symbols. It's doing better for a metric of 29, but let's go catch him some symbols. First of all, we can put this guy that way. We can put this guy that way.
We'll have to make sure that we back up the blue star by a multiple of 4 so that the timing works out. It can't be the straightforward, just put it right behind the first one.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The bottom
2, 3, 4.
Also be primed.
So it goes here.
Could also adjust red start position as well.
Yeah, red backing up by 1 will make this work now.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a savings.
And there's, I believe, one last symbol with the bottom left.
Well, this is working. So there's one last symbol here.
Yeah,
yes.
That arrow and have the flip-flop pointing left, but then you need blue to start over on the left. And this is called a hanged flip-flop.
I wasn't familiar with the name for this approach. That's very cool.
Blue needs to be, I think, 2 spaces over for the red to work.
Oh, you're right. 2 spaces over?
Yeah, there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, whenever there's a timing wall, though, any of these modifications become slightly more involved, but they can usually be made to work in symbols if you don't care about how fast things go.
And here we go. Let's
beautiful fixes.
Beautiful fixes, right. 31, which would have given him a metric of 26, which would have been much better. Thankfully, he didn't find them and wasn't competing because he would have beat my solution, which comes up next. Well, here comes my solution, and it's good for 25th place. Oh, boo. Anyhow, I'm doing the raster approach. I'm grabbing 1 atom at a time. I'm swapping carbon 3 times to get over to this one because I've got a swap here that we're using twice and a swap here which we're always going to use for the iron or the copper. Or excuse me, not copper, carbon. There we go. The C's got me confused. In any case, we always go through this loop every time, whether or not we've got a carbon or an iron, which makes the solution especially slow, painstakingly slow. But let's go watch it going a little more. And we'll get to a carbon. We'll see how I made my carbon dioxide. Here we go. 1, 2, and 3. We're going to unbond the oxygen, unbond it again, go around again, make our double bonds, and then drop it off here. When we get around here, we're doing our output. So this is my lovely solution. And it's good for 25th place with metric of 28 for 33 symbols.
Let's see how it gets to the next input, because I'm still very curious how it senses or determines whether it needs a new input or not.
Oh, okay, fine. That's a good thing to point out.
Because it doesn't have any counting. It does use some logic.
It uses sensors to sense if the last one is either an iron, a copper, or in this case, a nothing when it inputs the alpha. Here it goes, brings in another one.
So it's testing both possibilities, so if it's neither of them, it's empty. That makes total sense.
Yes, so this is actually another thing that we see in a lot of higher ranking solutions is what I call an automated input. So you don't actually use any flip-flops to count to see when you need to input another alpha. It saves a lot of symbols because you don't have to do any of the logic and you just use the sensors instead.
Yeah, it means that instead of having 2 conditions for the grabbing loop where it's either iron or carbon, there's 3 conditions, the third being there's nothing, and that's the one where you input new.
Yeah.
And for those who care, I did prime my flip-flop and save me a symbol. But good for 33 and a metric of 28. Let's go watch this go to completion. Yes, it's slow, so we're going to go
I like
fast.
that you put the 2 untouched tunnels in the furthest possible corners.
Yes.
There was no particular reason for one or the other except for aesthetics, and I like that.
Yeah, here's one, here's the other. Yeah, exactly. I liked it too. The next solution is by anningmay. Biggie's going to explain it. It's got some special features. Let's go.
Yeah, so we see our hammer Waldo here, and this Waldo is hammering on the swap command. That means that every single cycle, 1 goes to 2, 2 goes to 3, 3 goes to 4, 4 goes to 1, and that means that there's this nice cyclic thing where it's kind of, since they're arranged from top to bottom, it means that they're basically falling. They're falling continuously, and just matters what blue's timing is, whether it'll grab 1 or not. And here it's timed so that every time that blue gets back to that grab, it's fallen 1 further, allowing it to always grab the right thing. I think that the delay by 1 is achieved by that rotate command that is left of the sensor on outside.
Yeah, that's it.
And how does he get the next row? He gets the next row this way with this sensor when there isn't an iron.
Right, so that goes over and he uses the grab, 1 left of the grab that he uses for the cascading swappers. So that will bring the whole block that's unused 1 over.
Yeah, and then there are also 2 properly primed flip-flops to count to 4, so that only 4 rows are ever processed before the new input alpha happens.
But
Which is good, because I think if these sort of solutions ran without counting properly, they would have an extra oxygen that gets brought in and probably crashes.
But again, the bottom flip-flop can be hanged.
This one?
Oh yeah, another the one on the bonder.
Oh.
Yeah, you can point it left and have the start just at the left of it, and it works timing-wise. Well, any timing should work.
Let's first run this
that's before the
completion.
input.
And let's go see how we save ourselves a symbol. And blue's start is
on the left.
Here we are.
And yeah, since this is a hammer solution, there's not actually any timing. It's periodic in period 1, so it doesn't really matter where you put blue.
Yeah.
At this speed, it's really fun to watch the tunnel tornado going on.
Yeah.
I have a soft spot for swap hammering solutions, which will be evident later.
Let's go watch it a little more.
So,
you're
there's
right.
one thing I'd like to note. Using the swappers over the inputs is suboptimal, and it brings me back to the first SpaceChem tournament by Guava Moment, and I remember there's a solution where he mentions that disassembling should be done over the output done. And this is sort of a disassembling, and as we will see in the top solutions, it's much more efficient to do it over output side rather than input.
Yeah, much fewer things to grab if everything that falls apart is already where it needs to be.
Very interesting. Well, let's go watch this run to completion. We saved an extra symbol. Anningmay used to be at 32, now he's at 31. With a meaningless 4125 cycles. This would have given him a metric of 26, but instead he got a metric of 27.
This is also one of the only 2 solutions in this to hit the swap command more than 4,000 times.
Fair point. Okay, the next solution is 23rd place by McCrush. Brookie's going to explain this one.
Right, so McCrush here also has another solution where he goes through the input 1 by 1, but here his solution is a little unique, where he actually places the swappers over both of the beta inputs, so he doesn't actually ever need to go and grab anything from over the beta input. Instead, red will actually handle all of that. Whenever red finds a carbon, red will input a beta and swap over, and that way he only he only needs to use a single grab command for his carbon and the 2 oxygens. This solution also uses an automated input where he uses sensors for all the input alpha logic, so he doesn't need any flip flops.
It's actually, there's no flip flops in the entire solution at any point, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, so this allows him to save on flip flop symbols, right? Yeah.
Let's go take a look how he makes his carbon dioxide, because I like his technique here. So we'll get that iron out. And here's his carbon. He's swapped one of the oxygens in. He's got the other one swapped over here. This oxygen goes down to the bottom. He swaps the carbon in right there. Grabs it, takes it down. Gets the next oxygen, double bonds it there. Grabs another oxygen. Grabs it, double bonds it. And he senses an oxygen down here. And he outputs it.
Right. The one unfortunate thing about this, though, is that he does use syncs for all the timing issues, because blue has to wait for red to do all the oxygens, or else it will move a stick of iron into swapper number 1, which would be filled with oxygen, and that would crash.
This one has solution has 32 symbols for a metric of 27. The previous solution had a metric of 27 by anningmay, but this one is faster. Let's go see how much faster it is. This one's 3533 versus anningmay solution at 4098. So this one takes 23rd place. Okay, the next solution is by PentaPig with 22nd place. Biggie's going to explain this one.
Yeah, so the approach used by PentaPig here is a little bit interesting and unique in how it counts for the last input. But first, let's just see how it does. It's handling one atom at a time like some of the others before it, and each time that a carbon is processed, blue will take a loop, and in that loop, blue will set up 2 oxygens on an L-shaped bonder so that it can make red's job very easy for joining in the carbon. At first, just let's see when a carbon comes in. Let's speed it up a little so that we can get to that. When red does sense a carbon, it uses a hang flip-flop, and it does 2 bonds and a bounce back so that it only needs 1 bond command, and then that's easy enough. It's quickly output. Blue sees that the output happens with an oxygen sensor, and then we'll come down and prep the next oxygen so that the oxygens are always in position for a carbon when it comes.
Here's a carbon coming in. It's double bonded. And blue already sends the oxygen there and is released and gets ready for the next one. Now,
so what I think is super interesting about this is that the blue is counting to 4 for when to make the input alpha. So it makes the input alpha after the 4th carbon is processed, which for 2 of the types of inputs is the very last atom. But for the 3rd type of input at the top, the second to last atom is carbon, and there's still 1 iron to process when blue starts to make the next one come in. So there's a bit of a tight squeeze so that it doesn't crash, because there's still 1 more loop red has to do before it's done.
Well, let's go take a look at that input.
Yeah, if that carbon was in 3rd or 4th position on the row, then it would crash.
Yeah, and this random sequence is a little rude. It takes until the 5th input to be able to actually see that one.
Here we are.
So in my own testing, I kept having to work out this specific case and have to fast forward it to like 55 outputs on the top before I could see it.
And
so yeah, here we go. The carbon is being processed. There's still 1 more left in this input, and blue is already on its warpath. So red has to make sure to get to iron fast enough before input alpha happens. And it does. It makes it out, but only because there's only 1 iron left.
Nice.
And so PentaPig had only an hour to make this solution. I think he mentioned, which is pretty solid. He later improved to 24, maybe, I don't know, very little time, but it was too late. He has the red structure is very similar to 15th to 10th place positions, as we'll see later. 24 symbols or so was really very close from this.
Well, this one has 30 symbols for a metric of 25, giving PentaPig a score of 6.444. Nice job, PentaPig. And let's run it to completion. Get to our results screen. 30 symbols this time. Okay, the next solution's by ToughThought. He's the round 1 winner. Here he is in round 2 with 21st place. Here we go.
So ToughThought shows us symbol optimization in all its glory by having a 60-ish cycle startup to prime 2 flip-flops, which saves 2 symbols. And that's what we like to do here. So this is well, essentially a rasterized method in that it unbounds everything at once, but then it handles atoms one by one. And there's some logic with blue that Biggie will explain.
Yeah, so ToughThought named this solution OR gate. There was probably more to the title, but I couldn't read it because it gets cut off. And the OR gate happens. So blue is activated by a sensor on iron, and whenever iron is sensed, blue will go down and prepare oxygen in a way that it's going to stay prepared if it ever runs a second time. And the activation comes when the bulk input, as a whole bonded stick, is brought over to the right. We'll see that right here when this gets moved into position. Red is going to pick up the entire input. It's going to move it over those 2 sensors. And it doesn't really matter which row of which input it is, because there are 2 sensors side by side. One of them is guaranteed to have iron because the options are either iron-iron, carbon-iron, or iron-carbon. And the OR gate logic means that if either of them has iron, blue will sense that there's an iron and it'll go down on its loop and it'll prep the oxygen. So that's a pretty neat mechanic that you can do when you have 2 sensors. You can put something on both of them and either one will have to be the right option, and then it'll cause blue right here to activate because one of those 2 sensors had an iron. It's interesting to consider when blue does that bounce back that isn't prompted by that, because it's doing it a lot during solution, but most of the time it's doing something completely meaningless. It's picking and dropping up something where it picked it up. But the very first time it does it, if it's just input beta, it'll split the oxygens into a shape that's very convenient for red.
And red inputs the beta only when it's preparing the carbon dioxide for output. Right there, we get a new input, so we don't get too many.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's watch this to completion. And
it seems like ToughThought probably missed some of the more elegant approaches, because this is a well-optimized approach for what it's doing, but it still lands at 29
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
29 symbols for a metric of 24, with a fairly slow solution that doesn't really matter. This is our only solution with 29 symbols, so thank you, ToughThought. Next solution is by Twistya. He gets our 20th place solution. Brookie's going to explain this one.
Right, so Twistya also has a atom by atom rastering solution, but he has a line loop at the bottom there, which blue uses to bring over an oxygen whenever a carbon is sensed. This is the reason why I'm particularly comfortable talking about this, is because my solution does almost exactly the same thing. So essentially here, you don't actually need to have 4 arrows to complete a loop, quote unquote, per se. You can actually get away with just 2 arrows.
This saves... gets away with just 1.
Yeah, the sensor is the left loop, or the right.
Right. The sensor is kind of the other arrow. It's conditional. And another thing to note about this solution is, right, red is also doing a automated input, so there is no flip-flops here at all to do any of the logic. I believe there might be a symbol saved by moving red's input beta down one and then having red double back over a bond plus instead of blue doing it. I know that's what I did in my solution, but I'm not sure if that applies here. It might.
Let's go find out. Let's run it to completion. 27 symbols for a metric of 22, and let's go see if we can save them a symbol. So we're gonna do that. Where's our bond plus? And move you down here.
Yes, and then now you can delete both of those blue bond pluses.
Yeah, it should work. Timing-wise, I think it's good.
Yeah, it adds. The second bond hasn't happened.
Move the output.
Okay, so in that case, I think you can just swap Waldo colors.
Community edition feature.
God.
But now that changes the timing for the sun's level.
Red needs to move one back. Because blue inputs the very first before red. Yeah, there you go.
There we are.
Oh, okay. It still can be salvaged. Good finds.
Nice work. Saved you a symbol there, Twistya. Let's run this to completion. 26 symbols now, which would have been a metric of 21, but instead we had a metric of 22. Let's see. Looking at the results, it might have made a difference. Yes, it might have made a difference. Anyhow, it would have made a difference. Next solutions by Blueeyedrat, and Giggs is going to explain this one.
So the algorithm is similar to what we've seen before, sensing atoms one by one. And here we have a different setup, which is high rid of what ToughThought was doing to set up the oxygen. And red is having back and forth on input beta row with a hanged flip-flop. And this is pretty good on symbols, and we'll see later that perhaps whose help isn't completely necessary, and it can go a bit lower.
What's worth noting here is also that it uses only 2 of its swappers. I believe the previous solution also only used 2 of them. And so they're arranging them kind of freely, and they chose to make a box, which is kind of aesthetic too.
Yeah,
the bonders in a box, swappers in a box, sensors side by side.
Yeah.
Oh, and how does he make sure that it's time for the input alpha?
So in the carbon case, it never goes over towards the input alpha, and in the iron case, it's going to be redirected by that sense command. So only when it's empty would it ever get to there.
That's another automated input.
Okay.
But it's actually suboptimal. You can just have the rightmost arrow point left, move the input alpha symbol down.
Well, first let's run this to completion before we start saving symbols. And let's go start saving symbols now. I remember this one.
There you go.
And there we saved you a symbol there, Blueeyedrat. And it works.
Always flatten your loops.
Let's go take a look. I went too fast, too quickly.
Yeah, it turns the double back when input alpha happens into a line loop, which is completely valid because there's nothing happening as you trace over those symbols. It doesn't do anything until the grab at the very left.
Okay. And let's run it to completion. Um, 25 symbols now was 26. Would have been a metric of 20, but in fact is a metric of 21. Let's just see what the next solution has in store. Okay, next solution's by Astronelson at 18th place. Let's go take a look at it.
Yeah, so we see here this solution is doing the same swap as an entire column, and it's the first one to do the swap while the atom is being held. So if you notice, when a held atom goes over the swapper, it stays held even if it changes which atom it is. Which, as we saw in RP0 doing the column, he had to drop it and grab it again. That wasn't actually necessary. And here we have someone who is right here. You can watch. that'll turn into a carbon without being dropped. And as soon as it is a carbon, they escape from the loop, and all three of the output sides happen, which allows a very elegant repeating thing to turn the conditions into one very known condition where it's carbon in that hold, and then the other three are all on the output already. What's worth noting is that this one's hammering on the output command. So blue is doing basically no help other than saving a symbol that could have been placed anywhere along red's path at once. It just causes it to be one cycle faster than moving that same omega down one above the red drop command. So this is basically one Waldo solution with one cycle saved by turning a hammer output here. Red does have to count to make sure that input alpha doesn't break. There's not any automatic input going on here, so there's a couple of symbols lost to flip-flop counting, but at least they are primed.
And that's actually why it's one of the worst scoring swapper column.
Yeah, the swapper column approach here is super powerful, and the reason we haven't seen it very much is because we're looking at the solutions from bottom to top, and most of the ones that chose to do it ended up near the top.
Okay. This one has 26 symbols. I don't think there's any opportunity to save you a symbol there, Astronelson. So you get off easy this time. Here we go. Let's run it faster.
And these ones that do a full swapper column are fast, so it's pretty nice. It's the new fastest solution we've seen in this video.
Yes, indeed. 1709 with 26 symbols for a metric of 21. Blueeyedrat also had 21 symbols, or excuse me, 26 symbols for a metric of 21. But since Astronelson's solution is faster, he got 18th place instead of 19th place for Blueeyedrat. Nice job. And in 17th place, we've got brookieoz, who's going to explain his solution. Let's go, Brookie.
Yeah, so pretty much you've seen the solution already before in some of the previous ones. Really, it's just blue is taking an atom by atom. It senses either carbon or iron. It automates the alpha input. And yeah. I have blue doubled back on the bond plus, which saved a symbol over whose solution was it?
It was Twistya?
Yeah, I think so. Over Twistya's solution, but essentially, other than that, our solutions are remarkably similar, if not pretty much the same.
Yeah, you just flatten the loop for the input alpha, and that saves an error.
Yeah.
No? Nice job,
Once
Brookie.
again, also, there are two unused swappers.
Oh, yes. Two unused
Right.
swappers up there.
So I was thinking of trying to use it to debond the oxygen, but nothing came to my mind. Because I was thinking, well, if I have to do that, then I'd probably have to like move the red loop into like a 3 arrows plus the carbon sensor bond, and that would have added 2 symbols, which I would be trying to save with the bond minuses anyway. So I don't think I didn't find a way to do it. But you will see in a later solution that someone did actually manage to save symbols on this.
Okay, well, nice job, Brookie. That was 17th place with 25 symbols. Let's go watch it run to completion. 2723, which we'll know is significant in a moment. That's called foreshadowing for those who aren't. Let's go. Next solution's by Binky for 16th place. Let's go see what it looks like.
So Binky uses a unique take on the raster approach because it's actually a timing solution. So as you can see, red goes on a 10-cycle loop, and blue, in the case of, blue gets the swapped atom, and in the case of an iron, it goes back and forth on a 10-cycle loop. But if there's a carbon that was swapped, it will go around in 20 cycles and form carbon dioxide with this very efficient flip-flop back and forth over the bonders.
It does rely on the fact that after a carbon is input, it'll always be an iron after it, because it does skip a loop. But the state when there is an iron is to leave the iron on the swapper, so ignoring it is completely valid.
And so this is also an automated input. It senses whether there's a carbon dioxide to output, and if there isn't, that means there was nothing for blue to grab.
Okay. Let's run this to completion. Binky got 2239 cycles, which is better than brookieoz. Sorry, brookie. 2723 cycles, giving both had 25 symbols for a metric of 20, but Binky had the faster machine, so Binky wins that battle for 16th place. Next solution is one of the more interesting ones. It's by biggiemac, who's going to explain his amazing solution.
Yeah, so I'm the slowest of the 24s, and it is a swap hammer solution. We saw one of those earlier, but it was a swap hammer using a column of swappers. Mine is 4 points on the reactor that are not connected to each other. And so it leads to this tunnel tornado, where it's very, very fast blinking back and forth between all 4 of the positions. I kind of want to emphasize that it didn't start out like this. This was initially just a one-at-a-time processing solution, and I used the swapper under the left oxygen to get it into position so that this kind of motif right here, where it grabs the other oxygen on the swapper, pulls it over while making the bonds, and drops it and outputs it, would happen. And so I had a 25 that was hammering bond and made it all pretty easy looking on the eyes. But I wanted to save more symbols, so I looked at other options. And the option that I found to save the symbol was to hammer on swap and work it all out with timings. And so the way that the timings work out, whatever you pick up on tunnel 2 here at the bottom right now is the same thing that you just dropped into tunnel 1 earlier in the solution. So it's the same as hitting swap once, just due to the fact that the loop takes the amount of time it does. But the interesting thing is trying to make sure that there's always going to be the irons making their way to output psi on tunnel 4 before they've stuck around in that tornado long enough to crash. And that depends on a few different timings working out. There's the timing where iron was grabbed and it bounces back, and there's the timing where iron was ignored completely because the last atom process was a carbon. And they both happen to be 1 mod 4 if you take their loops, which is enough to make it go from 2 to 4 out over the course of 2 cycles. But it does feel sort of like a lucky accident that all the timing here works out. Also, the reason it's 1 mod 4 and not an even number is because of the wall flip-flop over there on the right. That makes it fix its own parity without any rotate commands. It's the same as an arrow, but it costs 1 extra cycle, so it helps fix parity.
Okay, and the delightful positioning of these swappers makes for a really nice pattern. Let's go watch it go faster. Let's go watch it go faster still.
And yeah, it also is one of the automatic input. So fortunately, whenever there's a new input to be made, the tunnel tornado becomes empty. So there isn't going to be any carryover command timing that I need to worry about the previous iron still in circulation when I grab the new input. It will empty everything out, come to a nice quiet halt, go through its loop one more time, realize that it's empty, and then make a new input alpha and get back to work. This does make it the second slowest solution of the tournament because everything is happening by 1 atom going, or by 1 Waldo going on this enormous loop. But I really think that the swap hammer outcome was, it didn't place as highly as I had hoped it would. I had really high expectations of this because I completely missed the swapper column approach. But I feel like what did come out of this was really fun to make and really fun to look at.
Oh, it's great. Let's go take a look at it. Oh, just beautiful. And let's run it faster. Oh, and faster still.
It's not the top solution, but it's the best.
It's pretty cool looking. This got 24 symbols for a metric of 19. We had other 24 symbol solutions, but they were faster than 5207 cycles. Yep, a little faster.
I saved a few remarks coming from when I shared the solution. Zig said, "Biggie, what in God's name am I watching, and how is it 24? Gigs, what the hell, Biggie? How did you get a swap hammer solo? It's beautiful." I felt good seeing all the quote unquote praise. It was like exasperated praise. I take those.
Yeah. Next solution's by Gigs. It's for 13th place, and you'll notice that 13th place is 2 more than the previous biggiemac solution. 15th place, there's a reason for that. Let's go take a look at this one, though, first.
So yeah, actually, Flexo and I have the same solution, and I believe the only difference is the unused boundary pad command, and not command, just the pad, and also the fact that I have blue as the primary Waldo because it's easier on my eyes. So this is essentially an approach we've seen before, but made to one Waldo to handle the carbon dioxide making, and this ends up saving an arrow at the top of the logic. You don't have to spend an arrow going left on the grab command, which we've seen in other solutions. This uses all swappers to save a bond minus, I believe. Yeah, I think that's right. And yeah, the inefficiency with this is that I'm assembling over the output button. If you remember, there's the tip to disassemble over the outputs, but then you should assemble over the input. And we'll see, well, we've already seen some solutions that do this, and they use very few symbols for the assembling.
Okay. This is 24 symbols for a metric of 19. And even though it's not the fastest of solutions, let's go let it run at this speed. It's still faster than biggiemac solution with all those swappers. What did you call that, Biggie?
The tunnel tornado?
Tunnel tornado solution. That's such a great phrase. This is faster than that, and it got 13th place. The other 13th place solution, yes, there was a tie, is by Flexo. And I think Gigs is going to explain this one too.
Well, the key difference here is that the tunnel 2 is one space to the left. That's it. Otherwise,
it is not impactful, but it is a difference.
It is a difference.
Well, we can
so
watch.
Yes, sorry, Flexo, we don't have much to add on this.
And let's go faster. For an identical 3308 and 24 symbols, Gigs and Flexo tie for 13th place.
I do like that he put the unused bonder pad away. I should have done that. It's, aesthetics.
Nice. Anyhow, let's go to the next solution. Next solution is by Counterpoint. It's also a 24 symbol solution. Let's go take a look at it. Brookie, let's see it.
All right. So one thing that I'm going to say right now is that from 12th place onwards, we all have, all the solutions at 12th place and above are quad shuffling automated input solutions. Yes, there's unfortunately very little variety at the very top for this puzzle. Simply because the quad shuffling with the 4 swappers in a row happen to be one of the simplest ways to, or one of the least symbol-heavy ways to solve this puzzle, mainly because of the lack of extra grabs and drops that you would otherwise have to use if you did one atom by one atom. And similarly, they all used an automated input, so they had have no or very few symbols used in extra flip-flops. So Counterpoint in specific, you'll see that the automated, the quad shuffling solutions, they tend to either have their inputs either brought over from the left to the right, which some people did, or they're brought from the right to the left. But if you're doing from the right to the left, you have to move the input block down by one column, by one row, so that when you hit the output size, you don't accidentally output the rest of your input block. Unfortunately, this does mean that you're actually using more symbols than necessary, which is, it's kind of surprising when you start looking at the movement arrows as being optional, but at the heart of really crazy symbol optimization, that's just where it is.
Okay, let's go a little faster. Oops, let's go a little slower. And there's our carving coming in for carbon dioxide. And faster still. Okay, well this one is significantly faster than previous one, which was a raster solution.
However, a symbol could have been saved.
A symbol could have been saved. I thought I saw something. Let's go take a look.
Yeah, you should swap all the colors first. And then you have red hammer on bond minus. And so that output symbol needs to go on blue at the bottom right after the drop. And yeah, remove the other bond minus commands on.
And let's see if this works. Oh.
Wait, what did I do?
Bonder priority, maybe?
No, it's red will always debond before blue bond pluses. So
right. You have to have a red hammer bond plus stake.
And blue does the bond minuses?
Yeah. Here and two to the right. Yeah, my bad.
No worries.
Crash course on command order, I guess.
There we go.
That works out perfect, yeah.
There you go.
And we saved ourselves a symbol. Nice job.
But is it really a saving if it also costs you a cycle?
Oh.
Because now you can't output and drop on the same cycle.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
I'm just trolling, of course.
You're a cycles guy, so of course you'd say that.
Trash talking, SpaceChem style. Okay, well that would have saved him a symbol, which would have helped him out considerably. But there we go. Nice job, Counterpoint. Next solution's by Lazy Comet. It's also a 24 symbol solution. Let's go see how it works.
Yeah, so this one's doing the swapper column, but as a row instead. And because the Sudoku-like property of this input where there's going to be one carbon per row and one carbon per column, it doesn't particularly matter whether it's on row or column. And we see that same line loop that was in Gigs and Flexo and Twistya's solution for preparing the oxygens over the output.
Okay,
That was Brookie's solution.
Yeah, so essentially, the solution is just an improvement on the previous ones, because instead of using a atom by atom rasterization, it's doing the swapping thing.
You can also notice it's still doing the raster style grab. It's going to do a grab in two different positions, one for if there's a new input and one for if there's the new row. And it drags it all the way over and to the left before it goes over to the swapper, so that both grabs are covered.
Yeah, one of the reasons it's much faster than Counterpoint solution is that it's using two waldos.
That's true. The oxygen kind of happens automatically while blue's getting ready.
Nice.
Well, although it's still not the fastest 24.
No, it's not, but that extra speed got him his 11th place. 1374 instead of the previous 1613. Bought Lazy Comet 11th place. Still not top 10, which is held by JoJo. Let's go take a look at JoJo's solution. Now we're in the top 10. This solution's by JoJo, and Giggs is going to explain this. Let's go, Giggs.
So as you can see, this is also a 24 symbol solution. It's also a swapper column, which means it's just faster than what Lazy Comet did. And the reason for that is tighter loops, of course. So red has a similar logic to what we've seen before on many solutions. And blue is just very, very efficient in handling input alpha. As you can see, it grabs on the rightmost possible column and then does a very quick back and forth with the swapping and sensing. And so this will add stuff to a very fast solution. In fact, it's the fastest that was submitted this round.
That's right.
I'm trying to see what is the reason that red has a bond plus command, because I do notice that there's only one bond minus, and because it doubles back over it, it manages to break both diatomic oxygen bonds, but is red bond plus just so that the left-right bond can happen two on a cycle? It looks like it.
Yeah.
That's a curious way that maybe you could save a symbol later in a later solution.
I tried, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
However, I managed to speed it up a bit.
This one? Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I remember. Let's go take a look. First, let's run it to completion. 12:09 is our fastest time in this whole round, but I think we got a way of making it faster. So first of all, nice job, JoJo, for getting 10th place with your 24 symbol solution. JoJo, I believe you are the newcomer to these tournaments. Nice job getting 10th place. Really good. But let's see if we can save you some cycles.
So this one's a bit more involved, but you need to swap all the colors. Then the red oxygen arrow, you move it one to the right. You get outside over it, and not output omega.
I'm sorry, repeat please.
Output omega has to be blue.
Okay.
And yeah, right above, no, 2 to the left. Otherwise timing doesn't work. And there you go. And you can go a bit slow because this is also an order of operation crash course, I guess. Because it's very important that red happens before blue. And I don't remember why, actually. Oh well, this is faster because...
Oh, that means that output... no, because blue's covering output omega, so it wouldn't crash either.
Yeah.
Well, let's go swap all the colors and see if it matters.
No, it doesn't. My bad.
That's okay, but let's see how many cycles we save in you. There, JoJo. 1113 instead of your 1209. Nearly served you 100 cycles rather, not 1,000.
I have an 1112 saved on here, but I can't find it.
Well, that's really impressive, JoJo. Nice job for 10th place. Okay. The next solution's by Zig for 9th place with a 23 symbol solution. Let's go take a look at it. Biggie?
Yeah, so this is also going to be a swapper column, and what's notable about this solution is that it has a carbon sensor for how to get out of its bounce back loop once it's done with the permutations. But one of the sensors in this reactor is right next to tunnel number 2 underneath the input. So there's a sensor under there which is going to fire every time that blue Waldo goes over the carbon sensor. And if that atom is ever carbon, it has the potential to mess things up. Fortunately, carbon is on the right bottom corner of 2 of the inputs, and the other input has carbon in the second column, counting from the left. So if we fast forward the solution a little bit to its second input, which is going to be a type 2. Oh, it's the third input that's a type 2, so we need to fast forward slightly more. So, as before, this is another automatic input. But yeah, here's one where the carbon is in the second column at the bottom. So after we have processed 2 rows of this, there's a chance that this gets, or once we process 1 row of this, there's a chance that it would get messed up by the fact that carbon is now over the sensor. And so whatever atom blue holds, whether it's carbon or iron, it would be passed off to the left. But they've ordered their swappers in such a way that in this case, it's the only case that matters. The carbon is also going to be the first atom that gets bounced in, and so it gets to pass out to the left without having to worry about the fact that carbon is sitting over that swapper. Now, how does it know to do its how does it know, like, what's the other use for that sensor? I'm imagining it's to do with the input alpha, because there's a second carbon sense command that's sitting there right next to the input alpha.
Yeah, it's for the automated input. So it only hits the input alpha if it senses neither carbon nor iron.
Of course, that makes total sense.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I don't know if it's probably not possible, but it's certainly possible to have both iron and carbon sensors pointing down, and then having the input alpha at like a corner, and you could use that to automate the input, and that theoretically would save on a cycle, but theory is different than practice.
Yeah, that sounds like a non-trivial transformation. As is, I'm really amused at how this was able to jank its way around having a random input with a different possible carbon location by just
swapper priority. Well, no, it's swapper orientation. Order. It's not really, swapper order, not really priority.
Something that didn't exist in the main game.
Yeah, when you only have 2 swappers, it just drops between them, but when there's a tunnel, it matters. Zig had asked, is anyone else swapper order dependent? And I had to remark, yeah, I am, but that's different.
Anyone who used everyone who used a rasterizer solution obviously needed to, because they had to make sure that when they swap, it goes to the next tunnel they grabbed from. But
my solution was swapper order dependent, was it not?
Yeah, I believe it was also one atom at a time, so that's
right.
That's the phenomenon Brookie was just talking about.
Oh well, there you go.
But yeah,
very cool solution from Zig for top 10 in 9th place.
And there we go, 9th place. 23 symbols with 1466 cycles. Let's see if we can get a better 23 symbol solution. I'm afraid Zig, we can. Let's go. Next solution's by DariusOne. It's also a 23 symbol solution, and Giggs is going to explain this one.
So this is also a swapper column as all the other top solution. What I really like about this one is that it's a box, a line, and that's it. That's something I really like about top low symbol solution. They'll often resort to just this simple path. And so the main difference, the main thing I wanted to point out in this one is that blue, when it's swapping and sensing, it runs on a 2-cycle loop, like this. Oh no, wait, bad column to show that. But basically, every 2 cycles, it swaps and gets and grabs another one. And so, if you have to handle 12 inputs, 12 inputs to complete the puzzle, you'd get, for example, 24 cycles faster than someone who used a 4-cycle loop to swap sense, like Zig did. So Zig ended up 19 cycles slower, and that's the reason why, basically.
Yeah, that difference of 1 extra tile that blue travels made the difference of an entire place with the tiebreak.
Wow. That's something else. Now, blue does an oxygen sensing to tell when he's going to input alpha again. How's that work?
It's an output detection. If there's an output, then there was something to grab, and if there is no output...
I see. Okay, well that's interesting. Thank you. And let's go see how this one stacks up. as we noted, it's a little bit faster. Thank you, DariusOne. It is exactly 19 cycles faster than Zig's number 9 solution. This is number 8. Nice job, DariusOne. Just edged out Zig there. Next solution is Csaboka for the number 7 solution. It's also a 23 symbol solution, which means, yes, it's faster than DariusOne's solution. Let's go take a look at it.
So this has some help from Blue with a very short line, only to disassemble the oxygen when there's a carbon about to be brought down. And I try
Worth noting that, so when you have the swappers over the output, you have to make sure that there's enough space for the hanging remainder of the input to not get output as well. And so this one does it with rows at the very top, with offset from the left edge by 1, and that's unique. I think this is the only one to use this particular geometry for where to do the swap debonding.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, well, let's go a little bit faster. And I think there's not much more to say, so let's... And 1343 cycles, 23 symbols, as we said already. Csaboka beats DariusOne by, gosh, a little over 100 cycles. Nice job, Csaboka, for number 7th place. Let's go see who got number 6th place. How about it? Well, the number 6 solution's by Noeuchar, and please give us a pronunciation guide for your name, because I think we are probably munching it badly. But anyways, Noeuchar's got our number 6 solution, and let's go take a look at it. Brookie, how about you tell us about this one?
Right, so this is actually another, well, I already mentioned that for pretty much all of the top 12 solutions, they were all going to be, they're all going to be row swapping solutions, and this one actually ends up being another one that grabs from the right side instead of from the left side. Noeuchar here, he saves a symbol by, I think his symbols are saving from the bond minuses and bond pluses. In the previous solution, red actually had 2 bond pluses to make the carbon dioxide, whereas here he reuses a single bond minus and a single bond plus to make his carbon dioxide using the sensor to detect the output condition. I believe that's where the symbol is saved.
Yeah, so this is dependent on Waldo colors, because blue needs to debond last before having the carbon brought over to the bonders. And unfortunately, because there's so much travel time in making the carbon dioxide, this ends up being a bit slower than our swapper column or row solutions at that travel time.
The condition for the input alpha is very interesting, because you see that there's that single iron sensor here that's just to the left of tunnel 2. And I think it's ending up relying on the fact that there's an iron in the top right of every input, but it also would only reach that point if it just made a carbon output. So I think there's a condition simultaneously on where the position of the carbon is and whether there's an iron in the top right.
Yeah, I think you're correct. And that's why it needs to have the sensor at the very top.
Yeah, I feel like the use of the sensor in the output omega zone for both breaking out of the swap loop and checking whether you can finish tripling back on the outputs, saving up that sensor at the top is curious. Oh, it's okay. There's the flip flop also there. The sensor in the middle at the top is next to a flip flop, so it also is only going to test it every second time. So it's looking for iron in one of the last 2 positions that it's checking on
here.
Yeah, so that iron keeps it from making an input alpha as well.
Must admit, you've lost me, but that's okay. Anyhow, let's go watch this go a little faster. And faster still. 2111, 2111 cycles with 22 symbols. It's not our fastest 22 symbol solution, whose honor is going to go to, surprise. Okay. The number 5 solutions by Andy, surprise. And let's go take a look. Gigs is going to explain it.
So, as mentioned, this is another swapper row. It uses very efficient carbon dioxide assembly with the rotate and development minus over the input done. You'll notice perhaps that it has 2 input beta symbols, actually one on red and one on blue, and that's because the particular input alpha detection method requires an init this solution. I really tried hard to remove it, but I couldn't. And it needs a whole rework in the way it handles the input alpha condition.
That's unfortunate, isn't it? Well, let's go.
Yeah, similar to what we had for Noeuchar, because blue has such a long travel time, it ends up being a bit slower than other swapper row or column solutions. However, it won't matter for Andy.
No. We only had the 2 22 symbol solutions, and Andy's a little bit faster than Noeuchar. And so let's go see. Andy's clocked in at 1,772 cycles with 22 symbols compared to Noeuchar's 2,111 cycles. So Andy took 5th place with that solution. Our number 4 solution's by Sir, and it has 21 symbols to it. And Brookie's going to explain this one.
Yeah, so big hint, by the way, this actually is very, very similar to the first place solution, but I'm just going to say just that much. But essentially, again, it is a 4 column, is a four in a row swapping solution, and you can see here that there's the blue looks like it's roughly in a box. So this is already like really efficient usage of arrows, because you don't actually have to move. You don't actually have to have to grab the main input at at a row above or below, and you can actually just use the same line from when you first input the alpha, and you can reuse that line to continue on with your next rows. So this actually saves on like I think 1 or 2 like arrows compared to some of the other solutions, and overall it's just very, very efficiently done. There's on the left side there is a sensor, an oxygen sensor that automates the input. So that gets triggered if blue ends up running through the loop without grabbing a carbon, which only happens if you don't have any input left. And in that case, the oxygens are left on the bonders without triggering the sensor, and that's how the automated input works.
Okay, it also is using bonder priority here, I believe, so that the oxygens don't bond to each other before the carbon can bond in.
Exactly, look.
This cycle, yeah.
Yeah.
It's only possible because 1 to 2 is before 2 to 3.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Pretty much the only symbols you can save after this are really just the bond minus symbols, because there's 2 of them. Again, this is more like a theoretical analysis. It's if you could theoretically, pass over a symbol multiple times to reuse them, then, for example, to reduce something from a triple bond to no bonds, you theoretically only need one bond minus. But when it gets down to really low symbol solutions like this, it gets really difficult to figure these things out.
Let's go watch the input alpha real fast. This time we're not going to get the carbon coming in. So this, you not grabbing, you're not bonding. And there's our input alpha.
Triggered.
Right.
And you'll notice that there's a 6 squares rectangle after dropping the carbon dioxide to go and get the next column. And this was actually significant for surge place.
How is that? How was it significant?
Well, it's a bit slow.
Ah, that's how it's significant, all right. Okay, well, Sir got 4th place with this. Let's run into completion. 1444, which is not, believe it or not, not our fastest, not our fastest solution time for this one. And let's go take a look at what was our fastest solution time for 21 symbols. We've got a tie for 2nd place. The first of these solutions by gggol. Let's go take a look at this one.
So you'll notice that it's very similar to surge solution. It has the same carbon dioxide assembly. It has a similar oxygen sensor to know whether to input an alpha or not. As we can see here, it's triggered. And yeah, the only difference is that this is a small 4 squares to go back and grab the next row. And so over the course of 12 inputs, it ends up being quite a bit faster, almost 70 cycles faster. So that's what made the difference.
What made the difference?
Doesn't Sir's loop go one less to the left?
But doesn't it go one higher? No, it doesn't.
Shall we look at Sir's solution again?
I think a way to find out would be to move the drop and the arrow from that rightmost loop and turn it into an artificial 6 for no reason, and see whether it comes out to basically the exact number of Sirs.
Yeah, you can do that. That's true. But
I'm much more of a figure out whether something is true by doing it, which is the only reason I landed on the solution I did.
Yeah, this game often surprises me. I think something's going to end up worse and it ends up better, and I'm like, well, that's interesting.
Yeah, I also think IEEE had mentioned at some point after the results were public that after receiving this solution, or at least it might have been Sir's solution, he thought, oh, there's going to be major ties up at the top because the solution seemed like it was pretty clearly a good solution. And it is true that 2 people found this exact solution with no meaningful difference.
What's preventing Blue from going one higher after the grab to reuse the arrow up there?
I was going to ask that. Let's go take a look. First, let's run this to completion.
Well, then the issue is that when you swap sense, you go back 1 too high.
Yeah, you would still need that arrow. It wouldn't suffice to get rid of it entirely.
Okay.
And so I believe it was Dariush that sent a comment to IEEE that said, theoretically, you just need 2 bond minus comments. There's no other way around it. And he seemed pretty convinced about that.
Yeah, so gggol and Dariush being the other person with this exact score, were pretty convinced that they were at the minimum.
But let's go see. First of all, let's take a look at Dariush's solution. Hi, Mom. Dariush's solution is also tied for 2nd place. Oh, let's get the sidebar.
Literally the only difference is where red is sitting on the wall. They're both parked on a bond plus, and blue's loop is identical. This is a great minds think alike moment for sure.
Well, this is boring, I guess.
It's also kind of funny that everyone who's on commentary right now did a one atom at a time solution, and we're all here watching all the swapper columns beat us.
That's true.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, well, not much more to see here. But there is something more. Yes, indeed. Congratulations, Dariush, on a second place solution. Let's go take a look at our first place solution coming right up. Our number one solutions by rezoons. And Brookie's going to explain this one. So let's go take a look and see where he saved one symbol for 20 symbols. Oh boy.
Right. So, as you may have noticed, this solution looks almost identical to the number 4 solution, but the difference is all in the lower two rows. So instead of using any kind of rotates, here there's a preset flip-flop there, and with some very clever bonder priority and setting there, and red, of course, hammering on the bond plus, you can reuse the bond minus to... so he reuses it, so he hits it twice and doesn't need a second bond minus symbol. They flip-flop there... yeah, so in slow-mo... Yeah, so the block of 4 bonders allows him to bond all of his carbon dioxide with the red hammering bond plus without needing to use any rotates or any of that. So that is where the one symbol is saved. The oxygen sensor again is used to automate the input, and really it's just he found a better a better permutation or arrangement of the bonders and managed to save on that.
Yeah, it's minus a bond minus and a rotate plus a flip-flop, but that is a net -1. Rezoons was the only one to see it.
Nice. Well, 20 symbols. Nice job, rezoons. That's our first place solution. But wait, there's more. There's some non-scoring solutions to look at. Let's go run this to completion.
Congratulations, rezoons, on first place.
Indeed.
Yeah, this mirrors another tournament that I was in 2018, where second week had symbols optimization, and rezoons won it with the only person to get that symbol count.
Nice job, rezoons.
Deja vu.
But I promised more non-scoring solutions, so let's go take a look at them. The first non-scoring solution is by Andy. In this one, he's using only 2 tunnels, and it's the fastest of our 2-tunnel solutions. So let's go take a look at it.
Yeah, so we had seen all the swapper columns make their way down into the 23, 22, 21, and then finally rezoons 20. The lowest symbol count that we had seen on any 2-tunnel solution in the scoring list was 24. So Andy making a 23 out of it was worth showing here, just to show that that approach does go a little lower than all of the submitters had found. It just took someone who also found the swapper column and made something even better out of it. So what does this save over the solutions from the others? Well, instead of having a line loop on red, red manages to hammer bond plus, which saves a second bond plus symbol, and blue doesn't have to take any extra routing to take care of all of that work. It just manages to, with a single rotate that is doubled back over, perform the conversion from carbon into CO2. So a lot of the principles in the top part of Blue's loop are identical to those taken by a lot of the other 2-swapper solutions, but the reworking of the bottom to look similar to how rezoons and Sir and Dariush and gggol managed the bond-only oxygen conversion made this into a 23 symbol 2-tunnel solution. So that's very cool to see. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Andy.
And yet, because it is 1 atom at a time, it is substantially slower than some of the other column ones.
Yeah, I misspoke. I said it was fast. Really was low symbol. But nice job, Andy. That's really interesting. I'll note that Andy's entry, his submitted solution was 22 symbols versus this 23 symbols. Wow, that's really interesting. Our next non-scoring solution is by Gigs, and he does this one with no swappers at all, only bonders. Let's go take a look at this one, Gigs.
So I like to make stupid solutions while procrastinating improving my actual submissions. And so I was discussing the puzzle with RP0 and saying I was worried my approach wasn't very efficient, which it wasn't. And he said something along the lines of, I swear, if all the tunnels are just sitting unused in the corners. So of course I made a solution that doesn't use any and showed it to him. And
Should
the
have put them in the
difficulty
corners,
here,
I think.
yeah, I didn't put them in a corner because I felt it would have been too insulting. So the issue is that you only have 4 bonders, and so you can't really have 2 bonding and unbonding stations because you'd have to rotate the gigantic input alpha. So you need only 1 station, and then that means you have to move stuff around in between making carbon dioxide. And so yeah, this ironically uses the sensing sensing on blue that looks like the swapper column solutions. You see when it's in an iron, blue goes back after the sink. And so maybe I could have got some idea there, but I was too caught up in doing my next offensive idea.
Your next offensive idea? Oh,
Yeah.
let's go
Yeah,
see.
this one looks kind of elegant by comparison. This one has it rasters, it builds everything as it is expected to, and there's no extra junk sitting around on the screen. So that makes it look pretty elegant by comparison.
So after I sent this to RP0, he said he appreciated the lengths I'd go to disappoint him. He also said, it's really too bad you can't ignore the sensors.
Oh no, don't tell me.
Oh no.
Well, let's go watch this one to completion.
This is the slowest of all of them.
8,241 cycles. Now, what could possibly be worse than that? Uh-oh. This looks like a mess. What's different here? Well, there's no sensors used at all. Here are the 2 sensors. Go ahead, Gigs. Let us know how you did this.
So yeah, too bad I can't ignore the sensors, huh? So actually you can. You just sort by bonds, which on this level is really, really impractical, to say the least. So I set up that huge cradle and used the fact that carbon tops out at 4 bonds, iron tops out at 6. And so you can show on the next one, I guess. If it's an iron, I bond 3 times and bond twice here. And if it's an iron, I move it out of the way, but also move the whole cradle with it. So I can put the cradle back, and then I'll put an iron. There's a 4 count flip-flop here, because every 4 atom that was sorted, I need to make a carbon dioxide, because there's only 1 carbon per column.
And just like the other one, it has to share the bonder station with it.
Yeah, exactly. So this needs some setup. You need the carbon that's sitting on bonder 2 right here to be fully bonded to make the carbon dioxide. Otherwise, you'll have extra unwanted bonds. You also need the cradle to be moved, so it gets moved back. I didn't mention, but there's also a need for a setup in the cradle where the carbon on bonder 4 needs to be fully bonded. So yeah, it's really just a mess, but you know, after what RP0 said, I just had to.
I'm not gonna lie, I am very impressed by this solution.
Thank you. And I thought it was quite good too, but RP0 promised me an Archer Disappointment badge. So.
I think that's
He
a
says
badge
this out of love. It's of course always an honor if you make so. I mean, I've run tournaments. It's an honor if you make something to see someone spend a lot of their time to make a very intentionally bad solution to it.
Yeah, I actually spent quite a bit of time optimizing this. The first version was about 115 symbols, so I got quite a bit.
So this is reduced spaghetti? That's
Yeah, this is
amazing.
reduced spaghetti. Isn't that terrifying?
It is.
So yeah.
Speaking of which, I actually have reduced spaghetti for a bonus solution for week 3.
Oh, well, we'll look forward to that next week.
Spaghetti on that one. I'm looking forward to seeing yours.
Okay, well, let's watch this one run to completion. Oh god, it's taking forever.
The amount of bulk on the screen with the cradle is also fascinating. It's just like, there's so much to look out for.
12,192 cycles to get that thing done. 86 symbols, but boy, is it funny. It's amusing.
You think senses are maybe powerful in a random input? I think they might be.
Yeah, I was surprised.
I was wondering, is it possible to do a, what is it called? Can you just state machine out or precog the...
Yeah, I think you can, but this seemed more funny to make. Well, for some definition of funny. I didn't give precog a try, but it looks possible. I'm just not very good at it.
Okay, well, only one thing more to do. Well, like I said, one thing more to do. Let's take a look at the results of the round 2. Here's the results of round 2. Our top 10 solutions were by JoJo at number 10, Zig at number 9, DariusOne at number 8, Csaboka at number 7, Noeuchar at 6, and Andy at 5. I've got Sir as number 4. I got a mistake here. I have gggol and Dariush at 3 and 2, but they're really tied for 2. Oopsie. I've got rezoons at number 1, and that was a really nice job, rezoons. Let's go take a look at the standings overall. Here are the standings overall. Sir is leading the tournament now at first place. Again, our top 10 are ToughThought with the winner of last week, gggol at number 9, Ziggs at number 8, and brookieoz, who's here right now, at number 7. Dariush got number 6, Counterpoint's holding number 5, and Andy at number 4. Rezoons, our winner this week, is at number 3. DariusOne is at number 2, and as I said before, Sir is leading the pack at number 1, first place. Okay.
I'm coming for you, Biggie. Watch out.
Yeah, we're in close contention right here in 13th and 12th.
Oh, there you go. And,
it's quite amusing, actually. There's only a 1 point difference between 10th place and 5th place, or 6th place. So those, so we have five people all within 1 point difference.
Wow, nice notice.
And with the format here, it really matters who's going to keep playing and who's going to drop, because the number of points you earn just for keeping our participation up will quickly dwarf any of these close calls between people who have played similarly in recent rounds.
Indeed. Okay, well, this has been the end of round 2's video for SpaceChem Tournament 2020. Thank you very much, Brookie. Thank you very much, Biggie. And thank you very much, Gigs. I couldn't have done the commentary without you, that's for sure. Hope to do the round 3 video coming up next week, so look out for that one. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.
Goodbye.
Brookie, you got a voice for radio, I must tell you.
I've got a voice for what?
For radio.
For radio.
You could be an announcer if you wanted to. Next career. Okay,
yeah, no, I'm a material scientist. I can actually give like a decent amount of lore as to input alpha and this this general. We're essentially doing the Bessemer process here, but that's probably, I'll save that for the end.
Does the Vesper process involve just an oxygen jet?
That's the modern take to it. an oxygen lance, you just blast liquid iron with a lot of carbon impurities with a bunch of oxygen to burn off all the carbon and make carbon dioxide, which is essentially what you're doing here.
Does it get called decarburization anywhere, or is that a made-up word?
Decarburization. Well, carburization specifically is like the treatment of like steel objects, specifically on the outside to get like a hardened layer, because the more carbon you have in steel, the harder but more brittle it becomes. So, for example, in a gear, you want it to have some impact resistance because you don't want your gears to shatter if there's like a sudden jolt of energy, right? But you also want like the outside to be very wear resistant, so you want it to be really hard. So what you do is you carburize the outside surface, so only the outside surface is really hard, and the inside is still soft and strong.
That's proper material science knowledge. Very cool.
Very nicely done. Okay, so it's Biggie's turn to do